And now for something completely different. Live from the vault, right here in Erie, Pennsylvania. You've never seen or heard anything like this before.
Never. Hey, Vibers, welcome back into the vault. I'm Nick.
I'm Julie.
And this is Peter. Blum.
That was so awkward.
I know, I
That
like
was
it.
so awkward.
This is Peter Blum. He comes with us. He did a performance last night here at the Ascend Wellness Center, and we'll let him do a little bit of introduction himself, I think.
It would be great.
Yeah, so Peter, give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself.
Well,
Put you right on the spot, right off the
the first
top.
thing that happened was my mom gave birth to me.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, that was in 1947. So
Okay.
if you do the math, I will be 77 this year. It's been a good trip. I live in what I refer to as the most famous small town in the world, which is Woodstock, New York, which is it's nestled in the Catskill Mountains along the Hudson River, and I have a practice there in medical and clinical hypnosis since 1986, and I also work in the field of sound, esoteric applications of sound for healing and meditation. I am a grandfather and happy about that, and love my life, and have had a great time so far here on my visit.
That's awesome.
That is amazing.
That's
and
awesome.
I was asking you about where are some of the places that you've done your work. It's an expansive
So you might be
list.
in a small town, but you're not a small town man as far as where you've traveled,
you're
right?
pretty well known. I mean,
Well, I have this collection of singing bowls, and I play a lot of other instruments when I do my sound healings and sound meditations, but the singing bowls are really at the heart of it. And I have said that I am a disciple of the bowls, and they have been my ticket. The bowls, the fact that I play them and own this extensive collection, has gotten me invited to teach in Canada, in France, in Mexico,
Holland. Let me see, I have the list right
yeah,
here.
Holland, many places in the
Puerto
Caribbean.
Rico, Hawaii, Colorado, Canada, PA now,
Yeah,
Illinois, California. My goodness
yeah.
gracious.
So have bowls, have trance, we'll travel.
I see.
Absolutely. No, that's really neat. I had the experience of being at one of your performances last night that you had here, and that was, I'd seen bowls on TV or online on YouTube and things like that, but I will say that being there in person is much different than seeing on a screen or whatever. And we're going to share some of that on this video too. If you guys stick with us,
you'll have to show the
some
picture,
of the footage,
because I have a picture of what he brought, and it was amazing. Those were amazing, and the gongs. I thought gong would be a loud clangy thing, like from the Gong Show. This was melodic. It filled up the room.
It has a way of like building up and then kind of expanding. And
when you say expanding, and this is what I want to describe by that sound. It filled up the room to the point where I felt like there was something other than sound that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Like I felt like if I got up and walked, I would be walking through something.
Right.
Like physically walking through something. And I can't even describe it. It wasn't like a vapor or jello or it was something.
Remember Phil Spector?
No.
Phil Spector. They talked about the wall of sound.
Yeah.
That was one of the characteristics of his recordings with the Ronettes and other people. So that feeling of that, it's actual palpable. It's a physical thing. It's sound is a vibration but we don't just hear with our ears. We hear with our body.
We feel
We
it.
feel it, and we actually absorb sound with every cell of our body. Is affected with vibration. So
Yeah, it was insane.
I think that's a good spot. We're gonna show some of that stuff maybe,
Yeah.
and then when we come back, we'll
ask more.
we'll talk to him a little
Okay.
bit. So stay with us and watch the footage.
Om Bhuvasya Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi.
All right. Well, you saw what we were talking about with that. I mean, it was really something to see. I know we just in talking with Peter and Julie, we're definitely going to try to get him back here at some point again, and we'd hope to. We're putting him on.
Well, you know how I got to that conference that you met me at.
How did you get
NAS, the woman who took over running it, we had met, but I'd never been to their I go to a bunch of different hypnosis conferences. I had not been to that one. I was interested in it, but I just hadn't gotten there. And she contacted me, conferences in November, and she reached out to me in the spring by email, and she said, "We want to have a sound healer, and you're the best." And I said, "Well, flattery will get you everywhere." Thank you. So I drove down there and I set up, and I said, you don't know this, but I have a mandate that was given to me by one of my elders, who I was talking about, Beautiful Painted Arrow, who's a Picaris Pueblo mystic and visionary and medicine person. And
so his name is Beautiful Painted Arrow.
Beautiful Painted Arrow, or his English name is Joseph Real. And years ago, he said to me,
I like Beautiful Painted
He
Arrow.
said to me, if you would walk this path, go where you're invited.
Okay. Yeah.
And ever since then, I'm like, it's very simple. You want me to go somewhere, like Erie, Pennsylvania, invite me, and I kind of have to go, because he said,
so that's the contract you have.
That's the deal.
You just spilled the beans, my friend.
I know. Well,
you're coming back again.
Yes, we are.
But the thing is, I've also added, after thinking about this for a long time, a corollary of my own, which is, and don't go where you're not invited.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I can kind of force my way in, but it often doesn't end up so good.
It's like karmically it doesn't work out.
You can batter the door down, but it's much nicer if somebody opens the door and says, "Come in."
Absolutely.
Right?
Definitely.
Then there's more grace, and it seems to evolve in a more natural, organic fashion. I feel like I'm a missionary.
You are.
Sure.
100%.
And I'm on a mission to carry the message of the hope of healing and spiritual growth through these modalities. Now,
Right.
you had asked earlier which came first, the
That's
hypnosis
what I was just gonna prompt you on. I was
Yeah,
yeah.
or the
thank you.
sound
Yeah.
healing. And I was born into a musical family,
Okay.
and I've been playing the guitar since I was 12 and the conga drum since I was 13.
When you say born into a musical family,
Yeah, my dad was an operatic baritone,
Wow. Okay.
and we had a piano in the house. And
can you sing opera?
No, I cannot sing opera.
That's why you got into the instruments instead.
No,
No.
I what I got from my parents was a great appreciation of the arts.
Yeah.
That it was not a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Both my parents were involved. My mom was a professional watercolor artist,
Oh, I love that.
and she painted, and she loved it, and I could see how much joy she got from the act of painting.
Oh, it's
Right?
very yes.
Right? And my dad was singing, and he had a day
Yeah.
job as a salesman, but his great love was singing, and he'd go and sing
Absolutely.
at night with these opera companies. And so I, music comes very naturally to me.
Well, the arts do, and I forgot I told you about my being a watercolorist.
Oh,
That's crazy.
I didn't
He's
forget.
got a mind like a trap.
Yeah.
I'm
Where
jealous
did
of it.
where'd you grow up, Peter?
In New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in New York and lived there until I was 22, at which point I visited the little town of Woodstock, which is about 2 hours north of New York. I had no plans.
Did you go there for the
No,
big festival?
No, I didn't.
No?
That's a whole other story. No.
I didn't know maybe you went there and then just never left. You know, or something
I
like that,
could
right?
have.
Yeah.
In an alternate reality, that's possible that
Sure.
happened.
Absolutely.
I went up there with a woman that I was seeing who had a friend from New York who was living in Woodstock.
Okay.
And we went up to visit for a weekend. And as I said, I had no plans to leave New York City at the time, but I walked down the main street of Woodstock, and I've only had this happen literally maybe half a dozen times in my life. Very loud and clear, a voice in my head said, "This is where you're supposed to live." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So I went back to the city and I organized my affairs, and I came up to visit again and looking for a house. And this was in July, August. By Thanksgiving, we had moved up.
Wow.
So
what year was that?
69.
Okay.
The year of the festival.
It just fits.
Yeah.
It fits
It's
well.
just so
Yeah, like
funny.
you said, there may have been a draw. Maybe originally in another timeline you were also there.
So I moved.
I'm sure
up.
you knew people who went, though. I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you, and in the way that life has these unbelievable, you say that's not possible. That's too odd of a synchronicity. The woman that I married in 1973, which was 4 years later, had gone to the Woodstock Festival.
Okay.
And she had gone with a man named Peter Blum.
Oh no way! There's no way.
Crazy.
There's no way. Come on, now that's
whom I never met, but I said you had the right name, but the wrong guy.
Well, I mean, if she ever got you confused after that day,
right?
There's a lot of drugs involved.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Right.
So she's like, "Oh, you're the Peter.
really
Which Peter are you?
So,
let me focus."
So I basically I moved my family in 1978. I had 2 kids, and we all moved and lived in Holland for 3 years.
Neat.
Okay.
Lived in Amsterdam, which was our social experiment of living outside of the United States.
Yeah.
Living in a different type of a political system. They have a social democracy.
Yep.
And it was interesting, but we missed the mountains. It's very flat there.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so we came back. But other than those 3 years, I've essentially lived in Woodstock the entire time.
Wow.
Driving through upstate New York with the mountains and everything like that, it is such a beautiful setting, and I can see what drew you to that area.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and when we were living in Holland, it was very lovely, but it's flat.
Yeah,
it's called the Netherlands. It's,
right.
It's
under
below sea
yeah,
level.
exactly.
Right. So I love my mountains.
Yeah.
I am. I think people maybe.
Well, it sounds like you were spiritually drawn there, especially if you heard that you needed to be living
Yeah,
there, and you
it's
felt that, you
yeah,
heard it,
yeah,
and there's something about the area that was supposed to be part of your journey.
yeah. So I feel very rooted there. Carlos Castaneda said his teacher Don Juan said every person has their place on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and you sort of, unless you're like Kane in that old kung fu TV series, Wandering the Earth.
Yeah.
You're nomad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
You want to find your.
Sometimes that is your
You
place,
want to
wandering,
find
but yeah,
your spot, and
absolutely.
we've talked about the energy of a room,
Oh
the
yeah.
energy of a place. It's a
People.
science called geomancy,
Mm-hmm.
feng shui,
Oh yeah.
where you actually can feel the energy, the ley lines going through the planet, and where they are focused in concentrated way. We have sacred sites like
Well, I noticed that you were setting up your singing bowls in a certain way. You put the gong in a certain place. You put like some of the things that the rugs that you had them sitting on in a certain way, and
yes.
you're very particular. And you're like, Julie, here, I'll give you the little pads that I put under the bowl to set up.
Right.
This is your job.
Don't mess it up.
Right.
And I'm like, I get it. He's an artist. He's an
Yeah.
artist with this. It's not just.
Well, it's a little OCD,
But that's
Sure.
okay.
but it's
I mean,
also, I've hung around with South American and Mexican shamans,
mhm,
and they do something called a mesa. They set up an altar in the center of
Mhm.
the room,
mhm,
and it's very specific. And there are four quadrants, and
mhm.
they stand for the directions, and they
Mhm.
have very specific herbs and flowers and stones in each direction. So there's an acknowledgement of the idea of a ritual space,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
that's what I was when I
But you're not completely. You call yourself OCD. You call yourself a Virgo, and you say that certain things have to be a certain way. But look at I know people who are stockbrokers who will go sit down in their cubicle and they have to have their pens here, and
right.
it's not so much spiritual, or is it? And is everybody subscribing to the fact that they like things pleasing and in a space that's
Right.
oriented to the most creativity?
That's a great question.
To me, I think that it's more spiritual for everybody, including
Yeah.
people who are just trying to be organized and punctual and scheduled. And
Yeah.
I think that you need to have your space work with your
Well,
creative
we talked a
flow
little bit
for
earlier
sure.
about ritualistic things too, and I think
Hmm.
that it kind of fits into that as well.
Yeah.
You find what works for you, and just kind of goes from there.
Again, beautiful painted arrow, Joseph Real, who inspired and continues to inspire me. He's 89. He's still on the
Wow.
planet. He's in retirement. He just paints and writes books now.
It's like either beautiful painted arrow or Joe.
Joseph,
Yeah, right.
BPA, as he's known in corporate circles.
Right, PPA.
So Joseph would admonish us when we would go and take teachings from us. He would say, "Don't get stuck in the form."
Love that.
So there's a form. I do Tai Chi.
I should tell all of my real estate people, don't get stuck in the wait.
Right.
That would be bad.
The
if
form.
I did that.
No.
If I
The
did that.
forms.
Well,
Yeah.
no, listen, I learned a certain form
I know.
in Tai Chi, and there's
Yeah.
108 moves in the long form, and I'm doing it for years, and I'll go like this, and my teacher will come along and say, "No, it's supposed to be more like that."
Mm-hmm.
So there's a correction that's made,
Mm-hmm.
but also he will say it's good to have a ceremony that's done in the regular way
Mm-hmm.
on a cyclical basis, but
Mhm.
also if it doesn't grow and change, it gets um
Stagnant.
stagnant,
Mhm.
right? So you have to keep it fresh by bringing in new innovation, right?
Absolutely.
To keep it alive.
And your own fingerprint and what works best for the room and what works best for you. I noticed that you said to us last night during the concert
Mhm.
that I'm looking at all of you and I'm going to tailor this to what who you are.
Yeah, that's
And
my hope.
yeah.
Is that it's an interactive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going from a preconceived score.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm improvising with a general plan in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I approach my work with hypnotherapy clients.
Mhm.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
I have a general plan in mind. I have I'm going to start at point A, and first, what's the first thing you do when you see a client?
Well, immediately we go into the office, we sit down, we build rapport.
Rapport.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
Okay, right.
Got to have trust and rapport, whether you're selling real estate or selling
Absolutely.
used trances.
No, it's true. And
you have to have rapport, and then gathering information. I'm looking. I'm not asking. Like when we had our circle yesterday afternoon, where I was teaching and leading people through a specific ceremony and ritual. I wanted to know who was there, and we sat in a circle, and we had an opening circle where people. I said, "Who are you, and what do you want? Where are you coming from?"
That's exactly what. Not just with what you do, but like Nick, he takes his people and sits down, talks a little bit, or is on the phone and talks a little bit about what they do. Am I right? And I think that for everything that we're going to start to engage in, we should know each other.
Right. Not every. Yeah. Exactly. If you start, I mean, you can do, like you said, real estate. You sell whatever. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing you do with
you're
your
building
clients.
building a relationship with someone, and that's always going to be much more than just a transactional thing.
So,
and right.
My dad had this dream of being, opera singer, but by day he was in sales. He worked for the Philadelphia Container Company, and he sold, freight cars full of corrugated cardboard containers. Right. And
cardboard. Yeah, no, it is.
Right.
I mean,
and my.
I love boxes.
Boxes are great.
Well, these are tubes, but
tubes.
Even
that's
better.
even cooler.
Like
make a didgeridoo out
caulking
of those.
compound tubes and breadcrumb containers.
Yeah.
But my hypnosis mentor was a man named Richard Zarrow, who is not on the planet any longer, but he brought me into the field, and I grew up saying, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
I'll do anything but sales. I'm not going into sales.
And look at you go. You're selling.
Wait. So right. Richard, whose father was also in sales, as he was training me in hypnosis, and he was a gung-ho guerrilla marketer as well as a very fine clinician. So he was. I had my attitude there, and he looked at me and said, "What, are you kidding? It's all sales. You're always selling. You're selling your beliefs, your opinions, your ideas." I was like,
1,000%.
I didn't think of it that way, but of course. So to be congruent is a term that we use a lot in the field. It's an engineering term that was borrowed by the field of neurolinguistic programming, which I hope people know a little bit about. If not, Google it.
Pause right there. Right? Google it. Come back.
And
NLP.
Neurolinguistic programming talks about being congruent. It means you're in alignment. That my words match my tone of voice, which matches my posture and my expression. If we're incongruent,
and your journey, it has to be your words have to match where you want to go. Your words have to point in the direction that you're facing and trying to go. You can't have the negative terminology. You can't.
I have to be believable.
Yes.
And to myself and to others. Yes. I really have to believe what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And project that.
Right.
Now, if you want to test how congruent you are, dogs and little kids, they are not paying much attention to your words. Right. They're reading the rest of it. And if you're not congruent, then like forget about it. I'm not interested.
You're fake, man.
Right? Yeah,
I don't even know what you're saying.
I would say to my son when he was little, he's in his late 40s now, but when he was little, I'd say, look, if you don't, clean up your room, I'm not going to let you watch this basketball game later.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, right, Dad. Right. Because I didn't come across as like, I'm going to follow through on this, right? So
it's not until you actually are congruent with your words that the kids understand that.
Absolutely.
kids and
Yeah.
and dogs and
Yeah.
animals,
But you
they're the
can't
same,
say
right?
hi there, puppy,
No,
and
they
look
know. They
scared.
see
They'll
right
know.
through you.
They
They see
No,
will.
right
you
through
can
you.
say to a dog, "I hate you, you
Yeah.
little dog,"
And they'll
And
be
they
like,
get excited. Right. They don't know what you're saying.
That's
Right.
not the words, right?
Yeah.
right. And you can't say you love them and be afraid.
No, so
I love you.
right. So
I love you.
in neurolinguistic programming, they say one of the maxims is it's not what you say so much as how you say
Yeah.
it.
What
You
I
know?
don't like, so here's the thing on you. Okay, we get older and we forget to use that sixth sense. Like dogs and kids
Mm.
can
Mm-hmm.
see right through you because they're feeling what your intentions are and they're watching your actions. As adults, we start to lose that little bit of that. We start to forget that we are intuitive people
Right.
and we're feeling
You got to
beings.
come back into terms. You have to
Yes.
bring that back.
Yeah.
And try to not lose that.
And how do you do
Absolutely.
that? You do the things that Peter teaches. We do like things like even prayer, even going down to the beach and grounding. Those are the things that we do,
Lights out.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's some sort of daily practice to remember. You know, we forget. Everybody has moments of enlightenment,
right.
moments
Yeah.
of clarity, and then we forget,
Mm-hmm.
and we get lost in what the Hindus call Maya, the
Mm-hmm.
big illusion, the big
Mm-hmm.
dream,
Mm-hmm.
and we're we meet somebody who looks like reminds us, because I say about Joseph Real, he lives in the place where I get to visit occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He's there almost all the time, and that's a
Mhm.
reminder to me. When the Dalai Lama came to visit Woodstock,
Mm.
it was astonishing. It was like the entire town had a bliss bubble over it
Interesting.
for
Mm-hmm.
days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody was just in a really
Yeah.
Good
upbeat
space.
mood just from
Yeah.
him
Cool.
being there.
Yeah.
So that, if you want to remember, hang around people who are an inspiration,
I love that.
right?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Seek people who,
Absolutely.
and they don't need to have an official position. It could be a favorite grandparent or an aunt or
Yep.
uncle, or somebody that just
Positive energy
yeah,
is
positive.
everything.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, and this is a great interview, and it's great having you, and we talk about like hypnosis and stuff with Julie a lot, and trying to educate people of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and all of this. It can seem intimidating to someone from the outside. Obviously, they go, "Oh, hypnosis," or
Right.
"Oh, whatever."
Right.
But it's not that complicated.
It's
No,
not.
it's
It's not,
not. I
and
love
it
that.
really is finding.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I use storytelling a lot
And
to
why
make
is
my
this so bad?
points.
Why is what we're talking about so bad compared to like a coach that goes into the locker room and says, "Kids,
It's
we
no
got to
different.
we've got to get the mindset to
It's no
win."
different.
There's no difference.
It's the
It's no
same. It's
different.
just in a different,
It's a
atmosphere or a
it's a
different
different
approach,
wrapper.
but it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
So
Yeah.
when here's a little story. I had a friend who was a videographer, and he was at a large conference. There's a place called the Omega Institute.
No, right,
Mhm.
right.
And he was there, and they were having a big weekend on the martial arts.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, and he was up on a hilltop with some of the Asian, Chinese, and Japanese teachers of
Mhm.
these martial arts, and they were overlooking and looking at a bunch of the young Westerners below who were practicing.
Mhm.
And he said the older Asian guys were laughing, and he said,
Rookies.
What?
Yeah.
No, he
Right.
said, what's so funny? They said, it's not that complicated."
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
I
I
love
think
that.
about that a lot.
Yeah.
Love that.
We humans in
Just life in
general
general.
Yeah.
tend to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
100%.
sometimes, simple is best.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
And in the field of hypnosis, I think there's a lot of people making it very complicated unnecessarily.
Correct.
Right? I practice something called naturalistic hypnosis,
Mm-hmm.
which is starting from the baseline that trance is a naturally occurring state.
Mhm.
Everybody's going in and out of little mini trances all the time.
Mhm.
So once you acknowledge that, then it's not such a big deal, and people aren't worried about, oh, can I be hypnotized? I'm like,
Yeah, they don't.
you're
I've
already
never,
you
I've
already
never
are.
had, I've never had anyone say that. And the other thing that was,
It's like when you're driving on the highway.
Yes.
yeah,
And
like, how did I get
you
here?
go and
I'm
you're
on
like
mile
a half
marker
an hour,
300.
you're
Yeah,
45 minutes later, and you're
You're
like, oh yeah,
I guess I'm now
like
at mile marker.
that's a good, that's a good analogy.
Well,
Obviously,
the thing that
we,
was
we call that auto hypnosis.
Yes.
auto.
It is.
Can I end with, because it's Sunday
Yeah, okay.
here? I mean, I know people will be seeing this at another
Other
time,
days,
Okay.
other
but
times,
here it's
right.
Sunday.
Yes.
And can I end with a little benediction?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is I found this online. I never heard of this guy, but his name is Jeff Foster, and I love this. It's brief. It'll take up less than a minute.
Yeah.
It
You're
says,
fine.
you will lose everything. You will lose everything: your money, your power, your fame, your success, perhaps even your memories. Your looks will go. Loved ones will die. Your body will fall apart. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent and will be smashed. Experience will gradually, or not so gradually, strip away everything that it can strip away. Waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. But right now we stand on sacred and holy ground. For that which will be lost has not yet been lost. And realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. Whoever or whatever is in your life right now has not yet been taken away from you. This may sound trivial, obvious, like nothing, but really it is the key to everything, the why and how and wherefore of existence. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar.
That's amazing. The gratitude.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we, like, oh, I'm so sad because this or that happened, or, I missed this or that. But what about right now?
Right.
What's going on? Look at this. We're sitting here, three happy, healthy human beings.
Exactly.
Having fun, making a podcast. Be here now. Right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Be here now. Even though you're watching this there.
But isn't that the truth of all of this? They're there. We're here. We're gonna be somewhere else when they watch this, and that's our.
But we're still here.
Exactly.
Don't worry.
Well, the information superhighway, the fiber optics, that was unimaginable 50, 75 years ago has made all of this possible.
It's amazing.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I, so this is something that we created at this moment that'll live in,
yeah, I love it.
Infinity.
Yeah.
And someone, 3,000 years from now will fall upon this.
They may not have the technology. Our technology will be too rudimentary.
Right.
They won't be able to play it.
This?
They won't be able to play it on their.
We'll all have the
CD
chip.
player.
Everyone's going to be able to play
we'll have a
chip.
chip up here.
All right. Well, before we go too crazy, thanks, Peter, for coming on. We really appreciate you.
We do.
And we do. We always say we'd love to have you again, and sometime we will. So
we will.
We appreciate you.
Thanks,
Peter. All right, welcome back into the vault after our interview with Peter Blum there. I think that we normally do our little summary right after the show.
Yep.
And this one, we took a little time afterwards, and we kind of found ourselves in a different journey of where we are. Maybe Peter put us in that mindset. I don't know.
I mean,
not like put up, not like, but put.
He helped us
helped our mind get into a place where we can.
It's perspective. And when you said to, I thought this was interesting. You said to Peter, you said, it's not that complicated. And it's not.
It really isn't.
Mindset in any delivery, whether it be, like I told you, coaching, teaching, as a parent, as a loan officer, as a real estate agent, as a hypnotherapist, these are not people trying to put suggestions in your head.
No,
it's about seeing things differently so that you can accomplish goals.
Yep.
And when he comes into town and he has you clear your mind and he has you thinking about, life paths and life journeys, it's not something weird. It's people trying to figure out what is going to impact them towards something that's their most positive journey.
So I was there for his concert last night, and I I got the unique experience of sort of experiencing it not only as a concert goer but as an observer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of unique to be able to observe it in that sense, because I got to experience some of the sounds and the music. If my daughter let me, she kept saying, "Don't go to sleep, Dad."
She was worried. She was
I
worried.
would close my eyes for a few minutes, but I got to see people. And there was, however many people were in the room, and everyone in their different sets of relaxation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rare. Like, unless you're, um, let's be honest. I mean, how often do you see an adult in a relaxed state like that? I mean, unless you're at a sleepover, which sleepovers aren't very common as adults,
I
right?
hate to.
But no. So what I was saying is, it was unique because I observed it. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in it
No,
as much.
okay,
So
I get you. How often
no,
do you
because
just
I've
get to be the
I've
observer?
meditated and been in meditative states and relaxed before. I know I seem tightly wound sometimes, but I'm a pretty
Like you don't,
relaxed guy.
like right now, you don't seem relaxed at all.
I was relaxed. Peter, you still out there? Come
No,
back.
he's long gone.
Play some bowls. He's probably
But he's
in
still
Buffalo
here.
by now. He's still with us. He was in well, we talked about that moment.
Yes.
That moment exists in infinity.
Absolutely.
That moment is always there now, which is kind of cool when you think about it. But
yeah.
So what I was getting at is I observed. So first of all, it's unique to observe others
Yes.
in that state.
Agreed.
Because it's a vulnerable state.
Mm-hmm.
You get to observe that because you do that with hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So you're obviously helping administer those states with these people.
Yeah.
So it was unique because of that.
Can I just tell you real quick?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, because this is absolutely true. It is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Because usually, if you are in a meditative group, you're participating.
You're
get
in the
right.
state.
So you got to. Where I completely relate with this is when I went down to Virginia to a healing retreat,
mm-hmm.
and I was supposed to be the presenter, as one of the presenters, as a hypnotherapist. And because it was COVID and there was very few participants, mm-hmm. I was asked to participate.
Okay.
But so part of it I was not, and then the next part I was,
mm-hmm.
and I get it now.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it was one of those pivotal moments where, like, you see people feeling impacted by their own volition.
Yes.
Not because someone's preaching, or not because, no offense to anyone trying to preach, but like they were coming up with their own solutions.
Everyone is unique in their own reaction to it. But so I don't know what was going on inside of their heads, obviously. But and some people may have just been closing their eyes and just relaxing, and maybe they went nowhere, or whatever. I don't know, and they don't need to tell me that,
mm-hmm.
But I think that was unique to be able to observe that, and I'm glad that I got to observe that. So then the other B would be that I was here, and that was sort of my purpose here, is to sort of get some of that footage.
Yeah.
But I was moved to the point where I wanted to also experience some of that as well. That's to be able to explain, or experience it, and be able to talk to him about what he did and stuff like that. So there were moments that I would, allow myself to kind of get into that state.
That's cool.
And so when you say, well, other than, my daughter would say, don't fall asleep, or whatever, but
Daddy, don't go.
Yeah, right. So we came down, and he was starting to do the show, and he was explaining to people, he said, get in. He said it was a horizontal audience. That's
mm-hmm.
how he explained it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I said, get comfortable. He said, sit, lay on your back, belly, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, allow yourself to feel the moment. And he goes, some people have been known to leave their bodies
and
during this.
So Nick's
and this
poor
8-year-old goes,
wait. Your poor child watches Killer Clowns and shows up someplace thinking that it's going to be more like a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
And then she's told that we're going to leave her body, and she sees her dad next to her closing his eyes.
And she's like, he's going to leave
Please
his body.
Don't go away, Daddy.
Well, and then she goes, leave the body. And then he comes over and he goes, where do you think you go when you go to sleep?
Oh
She's like,
my
she's like, what?
God.
And then she's like, well, people do leave their bodies. She's like, when they die. And I was like, oh no.
It's so Nick's gonna leave his
So
body right in front of her.
yeah, so she thought I was gonna,
This isn't traumatic
I
whatsoever.
know.
So what are
So
you guys?
so when we did leave, it was funny though. We were walking through the hallway here, and she's like, she goes, I'm hypnotized.
I've been
and
hypnotized.
she goes, my head, I just feel it in my head. And I was like, yeah. I said I feel in a relaxed state too. I said it definitely has something that it affects you when you hear those sounds and the music and stuff like
Well, why
that.
do you
And
think that little youngsters want a bedtime story? I mean,
absolutely.
you give them something really like something calming, and you
Hmm.
give them something that they can put themselves in that scene and live in that moment because they're using their imaginations and they drift off to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So, it's sort of the same thing. You're giving people a moment to visualize themselves doing something or being somewhere or breaking through some I can't mode, like
Right.
mode of operation. We're talking about negativity biases.
Right.
There's no such thing in the subconscious. Like
Right.
you literally are trying to help yourself become part of a scene that is proactive and good.
Right.
And when you wake up from this, whether it be from sleeping in a dream state or a relaxed just meditation, just grounding, you have a better idea of what positivity you're going to use going forward.
Right.
And you don't have that I can't and that limiting belief system, that negativity bias. You have more of a proactive way of looking at things.
Right. I know you tease me about saying like, "Oh, you haven't come to my hypnotherapy." I'm a big proponent of hypnotherapy, and I believe in what Julie does. But I also wanted to tell those of you that are out there that maybe haven't done it, that that state that you sort of find. I know personally, I find that state a lot, and I don't want to sound like spacey or whatever, but like in daily life, like if you're not finding that relaxation or that sort of trance state, or we talked about, you're driving down the highway and you have some music on and the scenery is beautiful, driving through the Adirondacks in New York State. I mean, the Adirondacks are beautiful. I remember just driving through there, and I remember looking at my kids and like, isn't this just beautiful? Like, I mean, it's just,
It's that
and
easy.
there are moments in your daily life that you find that. I find it in music.
Mm-hmm.
I often close my eyes when I'm listening to
Mm-hmm.
music, and I experience the sounds, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that,
And look,
and everything.
you
So,
they have shown that if you put like those monitors, like the brainwave
hmm.
activities, and they do that to all the people in the crowd at a concert, while they're
Hmm.
listening to a lecture, while they're in church, while they're in a class, or whatever the thing is that they're all together, the brainwaves start to align and match up a little
Right.
bit. And
Absolutely.
that's what like being in a community and being able to experience things as a group of people is very, I don't know. It's you start to attune, you start to you match,
Yep.
and you then have something to talk about. You have something to get excited about together. And so the group part of this was very cool. Usually it's a
Absolutely.
one-on-one thing for
Yeah.
what I do. So you find that alignment and that attunement with your fellow human that is so grounding, and
Hmm.
it's a very cool experience that I mean, I recommend that to anyone
Yeah.
experiencing music with a whole bunch of other people. That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
But what you're saying is you find the meditative quality of music when
Oh,
you're
often.
listening, when you're
Yeah.
singing.
Oh, yeah.
That's your first language, I
Right.
think.
Right.
I like to go near water. I like to
Oh,
look
I
at
love water
sunset.
too.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, and I think that that's what, obviously we have like a theme, and we try to find things, and I guess that the maybe the theme and the takeaway from this episode,
Hmm.
is find yourself those things that ground you and give you peace in your life,
Hmm.
because it's easy to get away from those things, and I know I've been there before, where you can kind of ignore that stuff, and when you start ignoring those things, and a lot of times you there's noise in the background, and
Hmm.
and that those things are calling to you,
Absolutely. Like,
and
has anyone ever sat down and done a project where they just lost track of time?
right.
Like anything creative, cooking food, anything, like if you paint, if you if you create, if you write, journaling is so impactful. If you sing, if you
Right.
play an instrument, anything that is creative takes you to a place where you're mindfully becoming aware of something that is like heart settling. And like you said, we are so inundated. You're a parent.
Yeah.
Okay, right there. You're going to be
Okay.
inundated with so many have tos in your
Yeah.
life, and going to work and coming home and solving problems and making sure everybody's good, and chores and errands, and it's just a flurry. And if you're a hardworking person, you're going to have a lot of that.
Right.
Maintaining a home, the rest of it. So getting a minute or two, even just 5 minutes to just settle and realize that you need a moment to be you.
Absolutely.
Be.
And
It
respect
sounds
those moments
so
of the people in your
trite,
life too. Like
right?
if you have a life partner or a spouse or whatever, or children or parents or whatever, understand that people can't be on 24/7,
Mm-mm.
and people need that time. So if it's they want to go for a walk in nature, or they want to just put their headphones on for
Mm-hmm.
half an hour,
Let them do it.
or they want to go
Yep.
paint for a half an hour, or they want to go walk at the beach, or whatever it is, allow those people, or help experience it with them, because sometimes, like you said, in group, it helps you relax, and connect.
If you don't decompress like that, you're always on,
Right.
you forget who you are. And a lot of people come to me and say, I just want to feel me again.
Yep. Yep.
Guess what? It's not that hard. It's
No,
not
and
that
that's like we said,
complicated.
it's not that hard.
No.
Lifing, lifing can be lifing sometimes, and really, I think uh, someone told me years ago, every once in a while, pat yourself on the back, which is another thing too,
It's
right?
easier for me to pat others. It's
Other
hard for me to
people,
pat my own
but
self,
it's hard to give yourself
figuratively and
credit for
literally.
where you've come
Yeah.
in your own life,
Right,
and
right,
what you've done, and
right.
things like that,
I got shoulder
and be
issues.
issues. I know. I got one of those guns for Christmas, one of those
Oh,
massage guns.
great. Oh, okay.
No,
All right, gotcha.
not
I've got a
guns.
gun too, but wouldn't want to use it on your shoulder.
It would hurt more.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's funny you talk about like who you are and stuff like that. Like,
Mm.
we were 15 feet over there and we're talking about goofy stuff, and we talk about goofy stuff on here, but some of the stuff we would never even
If
talk
we
about on
even
the
started
camera.
right now, this would go on for
It
2 hours long.
it
This is the
would
funniest crap
That's a
I've ever
whole
talked about.
different episode.
I literally can't wait till we talk about that
We
shit
will share it
right here.
so
Oh, don't you
stay
worry.
tuned.
We will
Stay tuned.
share it.
We have the whole history of the United States figured out. It's just to give you a little teaser.
Yep. Bunch of chumps.
Bunch of chumps as Americans. We are. And it'll surprise you where we come from with it, because it came out of nowhere. So thanks for watching us again, as always. I thought, today was, if you could take one thing from today, just be easy on yourself and find peaceful moments for yourself.
I love it.
And sign up for an appointment with Julie.
That'd be awesome
too, if you're looking forward to something like that. So yeah. If anything, it's just a relaxing 45 minutes, away from life, for a few minutes.
That's the most simple takeaway, is the relaxation the endorphins that are released. The more deep and not complicated takeaway is that you're going to get a little bit of a grasp on.
And then when you're calm and you want to ramp yourself back up, give me a call for a pre-approval for a mortgage and buy a house. Gotta put my plugs in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for coming into the vault with us. And as always, we appreciate you.